The Sorcerers. A novella by Amber Wallace. Chapter 9. A month passed without further incidents. Barlo had informed Silva about what he overheard between Alec and his father, but Silva didn't seem troubled. She knew her mother's presence had stirred unrest, yet the woman had yet to approach her. That didn't mean, however, that the Wiccan wasn't lingering nearby, waiting. Neither Silva nor Alec spoke about the conversation. Still, Silva made it clear to Alec that her mission remained unchanged, and she would do everything in her power to stop Otis. Until that time came, she continued assisting when needed but largely kept to herself, determined to decipher Otis's plans. She attempted a spell that allowed her to see anyone, anywhere, but Otis was always one step ahead, interfering with her magic. Every attempt ended in failure. The spell would backfire, exploding out of the bowl she used, leaving a mess in her room. The last time she tried, Silva received confirmation that Otis was behind it. A wraith had shot out from the bowl, shrieking as it lunged at her. Without hesitation, she grabbed her dagger and struck the creature down. But instead of fighting back, the wraith let her kill it. As she did, her brother's laughter rang through her mind, the same laughter she could never forget. It was then she realized Otis was taunting her, making his presence known. She had no choice but to wait for him to reveal himself. The uneasy feeling in her stomach never fully faded. By the end of the month, the castle buzzed with excitement. That evening, the king and prince were hosting a grand ball to celebrate the kingdom's founding. Chefs worked tirelessly, filling the air with the tantalizing aroma of roasted meats, fresh bread, and spiced wine. Servants adorned the throne room with wreaths, banners, and flickering candlelight, preparing an extravagant feast laid out buffet style. Guards patrolled the halls, and footmen stood ready at the gates to receive guests. As the sun dipped below the horizon, signaling the start of the festivities, Prince Alec made a final adjustment to his attire before stepping out of his chamber. He paused outside Silva's room, hearing her muttering to herself. Peering through the open door, he saw her hunched over a book, flipping pages frantically, whispering, "No, no, no," under her breath. Alec knocked softly on the doorframe. "What is it?" she asked without looking up. "The party is about to begin," he said. "Every member of our court is invited." He stepped inside, glancing around. The room bore a striking resemblance to Silva's cottage in the woods. Potted plants hung from the ceiling, tables were cluttered with books, jars, and vials filled with herbs and mysterious liquids. A simple cot rested in the corner, where she often treated patients. By the fireplace, Barlo lounged on a wooden chair, his green eyes barely visible through slitted lids as he drifted between sleep and wakefulness. Beyond a doorway lay Silva's private quarters. Silva closed her book and met Alec's gaze. "And why should I care about some party?" Alec shrugged. "I just thought I'd ask, that's all. Instead of being cooped up in here all night, you could unwind in the throne room, eat, drink, be merry for once." He grinned. Silva's expression remained flat, her eyes sharp and unimpressed. Without a word, she reopened her book. "If I have a free moment, I may stop by." Alec's grin widened. He bowed slightly. "I look forward to seeing you there." She waited until the sound of his boots faded down the hall before sighing and closing the book once more. "You're not seriously considering going, are you?" Barlo stretched lazily, his tail flicking. "Maybe," she murmured, drumming her fingers on the cover. Barlo hopped onto the table beside her. "Why?" Silva met his eyes. "Because I feel him, closer than ever. He's out there, stalking, waiting. And knowing my brother, this would be the perfect time to strike. I need to be there to stop him." Barlo's tail thumped against the table. "How can you be so certain?" "I'm not," she admitted. "Only hopeful." Silva hated this. The grand hall was packed wall to wall with lords and ladies, drinking, feasting, and making merry. The men clinked their cups in loud toasts, while the women either stood by their husbands and dates, joining in their conversations, or huddled in small groups, whispering the latest gossip. It made Silva's stomach churn. This was exactly why she hadn't wanted to come. She despised mingling with these mortals. They were blissfully ignorant of the true forces at play in their world. But that was the way of mortals. Flawed as they were, they helped maintain the balance of nature. Those of the arts, like Silva, depended on them to keep their magic strong. Without mortals, their kind would struggle to survive. Not that living among them was easy, but that was the balance, mortals and immortals, bound together. A balance Otis would never understand. Ugh, claw my ears out already! Barlo groaned, pinning his ears back in a desperate attempt to block out the music. He sat beside Silva, who leaned against a pillar, her arms crossed. Silva silently agreed with her companion but refused to voice it. Mortal music, another thing she loathed. It could never compare to the natural melodies of the wild, the whispering trees, or the rhythmic crash of ocean waves. With a sigh, she willed herself to ignore the dreadful tune. There were far more important things demanding her attention. There you are! Alec's voice cut through the noise as he pushed his way through the crowd toward her. I didn't think you'd come. Silva flicked her eyes toward him but said nothing. He held 2 drinks, offering one to her. She hesitated before carefully taking the cup. What do you think? First party? He asked with a smirk. Silva narrowed her eyes. Why did he care? No, she finally answered. And I can't say I care for them. Alec laughed, about to respond, when the throne room doors burst open. A violent gust of wind swept through, extinguishing the torches and plunging the room into darkness. Guests screamed in confusion, their cries soon drowned out by the unearthly shrieks of wraiths. The creatures poured in from every direction, their shadowy forms circling the hall, driving people into corners. Clawed hands lashed out, tearing at flesh, drawing terrified shrieks. Silva dropped her cup. Glass shattered against the stone floor, dark liquid pooling at her feet. Hey! Barlo yelped, leaping out of the way. What the? Alec started, but before he could react, a wraith seized him by the shoulders and hurled him across the room. He crashed near the throne, where his father stood with his hand already on the hilt of his sword. Laughter rang through the chaos. Slow, deliberate footsteps echoed as a figure strolled through the open doors. Ah, the man said, voice dripping with amusement. What a beautiful sight! The guests cowered, parting like water as he walked the length of the red carpet toward the throne. The wraiths loomed over the king and prince, ensuring they stayed in place. Your Majesties, he said mockingly, giving an exaggerated bow. What do you want? The king demanded, ready to draw his sword. The man smirked, gesturing toward the panicked hall. This, he said simply. The power I hold over your people. You see, Your Majesty, you mortals don't realize what you have, not truly. And so, it's time I show you. His eyes gleamed as he paced. Mortals exist for one purpose, to serve. To serve me and others like me. We, the people of the art, are superior, yet you insist on treating us as if we are beneath you. The young man laughed. His voice darkened. So, surrender your crown and name me the rightful ruler of this kingdom. Across the room, Silva watched in silence. She should have seen this coming. So that's what you wanted, she thought bitterly, her gaze locking onto him. You want the throne, to truly terrorize the mortals. She cursed herself for being so naive. I will never give up the crown, the king declared, standing his ground. His chin lifted defiantly as he met Otis's gaze. The amusement drained from Otis's face. His eyes darkened. A wraith screeched from above, swooping down in a blur of shadow. King Frederick barely had time to react before it tore through him. A strangled cry left his lips, but it was cut short as he crumpled to the floor. Father! Alec rushed to his side. Otis laughed as the crowd erupted into terror. People scrambled to flee, but the wraiths obeyed their master's will. The great doors slammed shut, trapping everyone inside. Nobody leaves, Otis declared over the chaos. He turned toward Alec, ready to step forward, when a sudden sharp pain seared through his thigh. Otis hissed, staggering, his gaze snapping through the room. Silva stood several feet away, her dagger buried deep in her own right thigh. With a wince, she pulled it free. Blood trickled down her leg, and Otis felt the same wound, the same pain. His expression twisted in realization. Get her. A silent command. A ray screeched in dove, seizing Silva. It dragged her through the air before dropping her roughly beside Alec, near the king's lifeless body. In the chaos, Barlo slipped away, searching for an escape. Otis limped towards Silva and grabbed her chin, forcing her to look up at him. Nice try, he sneered. But we both know you don't have the guts to do any real damage. He released her, shifting his attention back to Alec. It seems you now hold the crown, he said smoothly. Do what's right for your kingdom, hand it over. Or meet the same fate as your father. Alec's jaw clenched. Fury burned in his eyes. Without hesitation, he grabbed his father's fallen sword and swung. The blade sliced across Otis's left cheek, cutting deep. Otis hissed in pain. Silva gasped, her own cheek splitting open, mirroring the wound. Alec stared in horror. Otis let out a breathless laugh. Whatever you do to me, young prince, you do to her. His grin widened. Our life forces are bound, as brother and sister should be. Alec's world tilted. Brother. He looked between them, matching auburn hair, identical eyes, the same features. It made his head spin. Before he could react, a wraith slammed into him, knocking him to his knees. His sword clattered away. Otis crouched before him, voice dropping to a whisper. The crown. Now. Alec met his gaze, steel in his expression. Never. He squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for the inevitable. Otis smirked, raising a hand, a screech cut through the air. Alec opened his eyes just in time to see Otis stumble backward. His hands clutched his stomach, fingers slick with blood. Shock flickered across his face. You actually did it! His breath hitched. An ironic laugh slipped past his lips. I can't believe you actually did it! Alec's stomach twisted. He turned. Silva stood behind him, gripping the hilt of his father's sword, its blade buried deep in her abdomen. Pain twisted her face, but she held Otis's gaze, the same face she had known since birth. His reflection stared back at her, shifting from fury to despair. You chose them over us, he rasped, blood dripping from his lips. You've doomed us all, Sylvie. His chest rose one final time, then fell still. His hand slipped from his stomach, staining the floor in crimson. Silva pulled the sword from her own body and collapsed to the ground. She could feel her life slipping away. If only she'd had more time, to save him, to save them both. If only things had been different. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was Alec's face above her, and Barlo bounding toward her side.